Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa Rose. Welcome to my Facebook page. And this is a series of live chats that I'm doing this week here on my Facebook page called Intuition Tips and Techniques. And I can see that Facebook is just now starting to put me in the feed, so I think I'll wait for a few minutes to see who's going to be able to join me here today on Tuesday. And in the meantime, I'm going to time myself. I'm in my studio in California, and I've got this old-fashioned glass and sand timer, which is about 35 minutes, and this one will go for about 30. So here we go. We're going to start, right? And I'll go ahead and set this over here so I can see it. And then we'll begin. So feel free to say hello in the comments, and also, tell me where you're watching from. That would be really fun for me. So here we go. Okay. So intuition tips and techniques. It's a series of live chats that I'm doing here on Facebook this week. I'm doing them every day at 6 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. That's 6 o'clock in California. Right here on my Facebook page. So if you like my page, I'll be in your feed and you'll get notices on when I'm having the next one. So the content of these live chats that I'm doing comes from my new online course called Awaken Your Natural Intuition with Lisa Rose. So let's get started. What is natural intuition? Well, in a nutshell, it's an inner knowing without empirical evidence. Receiving, interpreting, and understanding vibrations that you are receiving energetically all falls within that realm of intuition, which is the sixth sense, right? Or being a sixth sensory being. And the sixth sense, let's talk about that here for a minute. The 5 physical senses that you have, you probably learned this in high school science or even grade school science class, right? So what are they? Taste, touch, scent, sound, and sight, right? Those are our 5 physical senses that, even as human beings, we have those in various states of strength and weaknesses, just like our intuitive senses. So the sixth sense, when you're sixth sensory, the sixth sense, it includes intuitive versions of your 5 physical senses plus intuition, which is the sixth sense. So a sixth sensory person functions on a different operating system than someone who is operating only on their 5 senses. So one, right, that includes the sixth sense is one, right, one sense, even though it includes all of those other intuitive senses. But collectively, it's one sense that is considered the intuitive sense, that of vibration. It's not enough to simply receive intuitive hits, right? I call them intuitive hits of information. You also have to trust them, and you have to act on the information that you received in order for the manifestation to happen, in order for the flow to happen, right? In order for the creation to happen, in order for the information to be able to come to you, be used, and actually open up doorways for you to walk through. So this practice of trusting and acting on your intuition leads to what we call living life in the flow. And that's really the goal of being a sixth sensory or being someone who is using your sixth sense, right? It's to live life in the flow. And when you're in the flow, life is, well, it's almost ridiculously easy. You're able to manifest easily. Things come to you as you are thinking about wanting them. But it's not just wishful thinking or hoping, right? So wishful thinking and hoping don't include action. We're just sort of wishing for it and hoping for it, right? So it's actually not going to function in getting you what it is that you need. Manifesting is quite a bit different. And I'm going to be creating a course on manifesting shortly. Tomorrow night in my private Facebook group, I'll be talking about the energy of planning and the beginnings of manifesting. So if you're interested in that topic, go ahead and ask to join my private Facebook group, Truly Living with Lisa Rose, the private group, and we'll let you in, and you can learn a bit more about that. So chances are that you're already using your intuition, but you might not be trusting it. Lots of people know they're intuitive, but they don't really trust it. Or they might be waiting for confirmation. In other words, give it to me again, give it to me again before acting on it. So intuitive practice and experiencing your intuition and using it and refining it and developing it, it'll just, over time, you'll gain confidence in yourself. And like me now, it just becomes second nature. So I want to talk about your intuitive senses, right? Not the physical senses, but your intuitive senses. Just going to share with you a bit about this. And your 5 physical senses are used, the ones that are in your body, your 5 physical senses, the ones that you experience in the physical realm, they are used by your intuition to signal or to nudge you with guidance, right? So you've got your 5 physical senses. You also have your intuitive senses. And your intuition will use your intuitive senses to communicate to you, and it will use your body's 5 physical senses to communicate to you, right? So your intuition is on board trying to help you all the time. So in addition to the 5 physical senses, you have your metaphysical senses that are experienced a little bit differently because they're experienced through your intuition. Now, you already have one or more of these intuitive senses working for you, okay? I just wanted to go over what they are. Clairvoyance, right? Clairvoyance means to see clearly. And how you would receive clairvoyance, right, as part of your intuition would be visual images that you might get as pictures or words or movie-like scenes that flash in your mind's eye and that literally serve, right, as intuitive hits of information, or they could be symbolic. I'm going to take a breath here and here because I just realized I didn't turn my light on. So let me turn my light on so you can actually see me. Ta-da! Oh, the things you learn when you first decide to go online and do live video chats, right? I don't know, maybe the whole rest of this was seen in the dark. I hope not. So, okay, clairvoyance. Okay, ready? Here we go again. Clairvoyance, to see clearly. And I see them as words in my, I see them in my mind's eye, almost like daydreams, except that you are not creating what's happening. The information is just coming to you almost like a movie. For example, when you see these things this way, right? When your intuitive sense of clairvoyance is really strong, you receive visual images, and you can see them as pictures, as vignettes, as they look like kind of like daydreams, as stories. You could see them as almost like things that just flash right in front of your mind's eye for a nanosecond, or maybe for a little bit longer than that. And they can be literal bits of information, or they can be signs or symbols. Clairaudience, to hear clearly. And this is when you might be hearing a voice speaking to you that, well, it might sound like your own voice, or it might sound like someone else's voice that you know or that you don't know. But it's definitely sound. The other ways that your intuition works with you with regard to sound is you might be driving in the car and you turn on the radio, and the song on the radio feels like it's speaking to you rather than you're just listening to the radio. It might be talking about, the lyrics in the song might be talking about the same things that you were just thinking about. Or they might even be providing an answer to a question that you might have asked right before you sat down into the car, turned it on, and turned on the radio. You might overhear conversations at the bus stop or in the train or on an airplane that seem to be answering questions that you were wondering about as well, right? So it can be delivered this way, as sound, right? In this particular way where it's coming through someone else, but it's still being delivered as sound. The kind of clairaudience that I'm talking about is sound that doesn't really exist in the physical world, all right? But you are receiving it as sound. Right, so that would be somebody's voice that it sounds like you're hearing it in your ears or in your head, and it doesn't exist in the physical realm. In other words, there's nobody standing in the room talking to you, There's no music being played, but maybe you're hearing music. And a lot of people get information this way, their intuitive information in this way. And they become signs and symbols, part of your intuitive vocabulary and tools that you use. Clairsentience, I'm going to be talking an awful lot about this in a minute. It's to feel clearly. So this time I'm talking about body sensations as vibration. And they also are serving as signs and symbols to you. But this is through the physical body. Shivers, a racing heart, chicken skin or truth bumps as we call them. Maybe stabbing or pain sensations. Hair raised sort of on the back of your neck, right? Where you can sort of feel like when you're in danger before danger is actually happening, right? Like walking down the dark alley. Waves of energy sort of going through your body. Another one is what's called clairgustation or clairgustation would be the French, close to the French way of saying it. My French isn't that good anymore these days, but it means to taste clearly, where you're tasting through your mind's eye. Again, just like the sound. It's not really in your mouth, but you're tasting something. You're tasting metal. You're tasting the flavors of certain things that eventually will correspond to a sign or symbol for you. It's another way that you can receive intuitive hits from your inner knowings. And the other one, claircognizance, to know clearly information that seems to come out of nowhere, right? So the bright idea, the sudden answer, and I touched a little bit on this yesterday when I was talking about doing activities, and getting grounded. So you'll get clear hits of insight that seem to just come out of nowhere. And this is the seat of trust for intuition. And it's usually the first intuitive experience that you have, right? Boom, that inner knowing. You don't know how you know, you just know without a doubt. And when you act on that knowing, right, things change. You were right. You know that you were right. And other doors open as a result of that, right? So those are the intuitive senses. Collectively, when all of those are awakened, and some of them are stronger, and others are weaker, just like your physical senses, but collectively, that is your sixth sense, known as intuition. So today's tip comes from video 2 of my online course, Awaken Your Natural Intuition with Lisa Rose. And you'll find this among lots of other things in that video, number 2. Become aware of your body as your intuitive instrument. And let's talk about one of the intuitive senses that I just gave you the list of. And the one I want to talk about is clairsentience or clairsentience, to feel clearly. Feelings on the physical body. And again, these would include things like shivers, a racing heart, a tugging pain, or maybe a tugging sensation. It could actually be a pain or stabbing sensation somewhere in your body, like a stabbing in your back or stabbing in your stomach maybe. It could also feel like an expansiveness, like an openness. Maybe, again, the hair raised on the back of your neck or on your arms for no apparent reason other than your body's trying to communicate something to you. It could be waves of energy that are going through your body, and it could be a variety of different types of sensation in those waves. It could be nausea or sneezing uncontrollably, or maybe coughing for no reason at all. That's the key, right? So like no particular reason, but you know that it's happening. How about the typical nose itching, where you're rubbing your nose, and your nose is itching, and that's they would call that an old wives' tale, where it means that a fight's coming on, right? That comes from someplace, right? So maybe that doesn't happen for everybody and have the same meaning for everybody, but perhaps for enough people, there seems to be a common denominator. Kind of like the chicken skin or what they call angel bumps or truth bumps. Usually that means, for a lot of people, it means the same thing. It means that you're in the presence of the truth rather than being in the presence of something that's false. So it's a presence of the truth. And that's certainly what it means for me. It means that I'm on the right path, that I can continue going because it's truthful. This is either my truth or the truth in the room. Becoming aware of your body and stopping to listen to your body and listening to it with intention, right, to listen to it, is a key to understanding your body as an intuitive instrument, right? So that's my tip for today, is understanding your body as your intuitive instrument. This is receiving all kinds of information for you that you can use to interpret and to guide yourself along daily, right? For big things, little nudges, big decisions. And once you get accustomed to understanding that your body is your intuitive instrument, you start looking for it. Eventually it becomes second nature and you expect it. So the technique that I'm going to suggest for you to get to know your body as your intuitive instrument better is body scanning, right? Body scanning. And this is talked about in lots of types of contexts, particularly just sort of running the check on yourself to see how you're doing. So a good time to scan your body is in the morning, right? You're scanning it for information in the morning when you wake up. I tend to do this before I even get out of bed, right? I just sort of lay there with my eyes still closed and I'm checking me out. How do I feel? What's going on? Right? So I also add meditation to my morning ritual before my feet hit the ground, as well as prayer for people that I know that need it, because I asked who needs to be prayed for. And I pray as a form of meditation, not necessarily as a form of religious practice, right? But it's something that I do, for other people rather than doing it for myself, because maybe they're religious or maybe, they need to receive it that way. But I primarily start to scan my body for information in the morning. Your body will give you lots of information, both on a physical level and on a metaphysical level. Both. Physical, meaning you need to pay attention to this. This is where you're holding energy. Maybe you're holding stress. Maybe you're feeling joy that day, and you carry yourself differently that day. But it also helps you on the metaphysical level, right? So how is my energy blocking from what it is that I'm supposed to be doing today? What kind of messages am I receiving that I can use today? For example, maybe you're feeling like your heart's a little closed or guarded, so perhaps that would be a message for you that says, something's coming today that you may have to shore up your boundaries for. And once you know that that's what that means for you through your physical body, using your body as an intuitive instrument, then you can kind of expect that, right? So you can shore up your boundaries. You can sort of be prepared in advance. And when that starts coming your way, believe me, you'll feel it before it's coming, right? What is this? How about the phone rings and you know that that's not good news, right? So it wasn't the ringing that really gives you that information. It's your body feeling that vibration coming at you. And before your mind even knows it, your body knows that this is not good news to prepare yourself. Then your mind catches up, and then you either answer that call or you don't, right? So that's just one example. Over time, in my own life, I have found that not only do I know if it's good news or bad news, oftentimes I know who's calling, right? And then the extreme example is, I was just thinking about you, and you called. Right? That's almost taking your intuition and you're using it as a form of communication where you're trying to manifest that particular phone call or that particular communication, right? That's an advanced step. So if you work with yourself this way, with your body, your intuitive instrument, right, you'll be able to use this on a regular basis and be able to gather information that you didn't have previously, right? What's everybody else doing? Everybody else is picking up the phone and then seeing what's happening because their intuition's not awakened or it's not turned on or they're not using it. So you see how you can gather a whole lot more information for yourself by becoming intuitive, by awakening, refining, using, and accepting the guidance that your body's trying to give to you. So let me give you a couple of examples. Hello, Jill. Great to see you here. Thanks for being here. So let me give you a couple of examples. Let's say you suddenly feel nausea while shaking hands with someone for the first time that is lovely, has a smile on their face, seems great, right? But you just feel sick to your stomach. So sometimes we'll say, oh, wow, was that something that I ate right away, right? We're discounting it into the physical realm. No, that's your body trying to communicate something to you. Now, for me, might not be the same for you. You'll know better as you develop an awareness of your intuitive senses. For me, that means that that person is not portraying themselves in the truth, right? They're portraying themselves as something other than what they really are. So for me, that's a warning. When I get it real bad, it's a danger sign. Like, sometimes you get so nauseated, you feel like you got to excuse yourself and run to the bathroom because you don't know what's going on next, right? That's like the heavy duty sign, like get out right now. But oftentimes we don't get it. We get it a little more subtly than that, where we just feel a little nauseated all of a sudden. And for me, that's what that means. And for you, if you experience something like that over time, you'll be able to figure out what that is. The best way to do that is, as I talked about previously yesterday with intuitive journaling. You can talk about those physical sensations that you get. You write them down, and you can write what was happening on one side, and you just start keeping track of them. And over time, you're going to see like there's this pattern that develops. It's like almost every time you feel nauseated, it's in the presence of someone who is portraying themselves as something that they are not. Right? Then you know for sure. Okay, that's it. That's my sign for that particular correspondence. And you can use that. It's a shortcut. You get it right away. You don't have to think about it anymore. And then you can act on it. Right? You can go ahead. You can tread carefully with caution. You can say, I'm out of here. You can create a boundary, strengthen up your own boundaries so that you can change that situation if you need to. There's a lot of choices that you have.